All right. Well, hello, Matt. Thank you for joining me today to talk, custom branding, event marketing, trade show displays, and everything in between. For those of you watching, I'm joined by Matt Stumphf with Strike Visuals, an industry leader in both designing and creating event marketing, and a supply partner for the Beverage Federation. So, Matt, I'm really glad we could connect today, discuss a little bit about what our breweries, our distilleries, our winery members, our brethren in the beverage space in general really should start thinking about as they're planning their events. So I appreciate taking some time and sharing some of your wisdom today. This is great, and I'll kind of turn things over to you and ask a little bit. Maybe you could tell our members and our viewers a little bit about yourself and Strike.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, Strike branded event supplies really strong on the outdoor stuff, the pop-up tents and stuff that you guys are using for your beer fest, but really any community engagement or anything you put outside the breweries, just you've got shade, you've got branding, you've got all those things that you need. So that's where we really specialize, and the indoor side as well, like Dan said. If you're doing a trade show or a sampling, we've got pop-up tables and water resistant table covers. I work a ton in beverage overall. So 8 years now in craft beer, and I've kind of curtailed that over to whether it's wine or energy drinks or really any kind of beverage. So I know what beverage brands are looking for the most part, because we're asking all the time. So those little tips that make it better and go above and beyond for sure. But yeah, we do it well. I myself have probably been to about 100 events over the last 8 years. So in different industries too. So it does kind of help with some context if any questions from me on what I've seen out there, or I can help on what makes a good event and things like that. So I think that's what a lot of this conversation is about.
That's great, Matt, and I appreciate it. And you're exactly right. I fielded some content, some questions from some of our members as I've been talking with them. A lot of the starting points I get from are those that are starting to plan that to attend that first festival, right? Where they want to they're going. Maybe it's their first time doing it. Maybe they just opened. Or they're trying to replace some gear that they bought that was, down the street, and now they're ready to step it up and stand out. And that goes for those new distilleries or breweries that we work with. I'm always curious in the question of like the mistakes that are made, because I learned as much from man that went sideways, and I talked to someone to make sure we don't want to do that. Is there a common mistake? You said you've gone to 100 and you've got me beat by about 90. Is there a commonality that you see from a certain group within breweries and distilleries that when they're trying to start to get their gear together and get ready for that first event that they make?
Yeah, it's timing. It's not starting early enough. I mean, that's number one by far. In the industry with what we do, lead times can vary for sure. But I don't know about you. I don't want the stress. I don't want like the question I hate the worst is, what's the last day I can get this to you and still make it in time? And I'm like, can we rephrase that somehow? Because that's just strategy to fail. So, when I'm looking at my events, I'm starting minimum 6 months for strategy, probably 90 days for full like action items, um, and also having contingency plans as well. Like I'm a big, that whole like, I don't want fall back plans, but I want fall forward plans. So something goes wrong, I'm going to have some kind of option in place.
Okay.
But if you start early enough, you don't have to worry about it much. So get it done well before, so you have time to set it up weeks before the event. So if something is, we're not perfect, we make a
Yeah.
mistake here and there. So time to correct that mistake, and still, because we're going to take care of our people, but we need time, so.
Yeah, I mean, you threw out a time frame that I would, it'd be interesting to kind of do a poll of like okay, IPA Fest is July 1st. When do you think you should be talking to Matt and his team? And I would imagine that like a lot of people are like, well, we would call June 1st, right? So this kind of like, I'll call and that'll show up on time too. And to your point, the stress, as someone now who's had to rely on, I know I'm going there and I want to make sure everything's there. The stress of the logistics, you just don't
Mhm.
factor that in of what that looks like and having those contingencies. So that is good to know, that the
Yeah,
timing is going to be a big.
30 days just doesn't give you contingencies,
Yeah.
and the artwork always takes longer than you think. We can help with the artwork. We can do it fully or we can do revisions, but I've just seen it so many times. It's your brand. So you hold it close to yourself and you want it to look perfect. That takes time. So if you think, oh, we can knock out the art in a day or so, that's rarely the case. That usually takes, and I always tell people I can't make that time up. So I'm like, I can get you a quote in 10 minutes, but art is the one thing that will usually start to delay. And I'm like, this clock is ticking and it's real. I can't make it up on the back end. So starting earlier definitely helps to get that brand exactly the way you want it to look.
Do that brings up another question that came up. So the first, we talked a little bit about like okay, this is where things can go wrong when you don't have enough time, when you don't have, the contingency and you haven't given those things enough time. On the back end of that, after shows, when you're talking to people or things that, is there an example of something where they say, I'm glad, we did the timing, we got engaged. Artwork seems like an interesting one where, where people are saying, I'm glad I was ready with that, or that we had a design ready to go, or we weren't thinking about what should this say or look like. Is that something that, the feedback after a show, maybe it's more positive, but is that also something you get, or what do you get from places afterwards saying it went well, glad I did this, or wish I had done that?
Yeah, I occasionally get the negative feedback of I would have done my art a little different if I would have been able to see everything better. And we help there for sure. I mean, during that artwork process, I'll give tips on that if I think needed or asked, especially. Like for instance, it's small, but a back wall on a tent, you don't want to put the imagery at the bottom because no one's looking at the bottom. And a lot of times you put a table in front of it. So you want your main messaging on the back wall up top at eye level to where even if you have a folding table back there or stock back there, it's not covered up. So just little things like that. Maybe it was a rush and we didn't get to consult enough and they're like, oh, I wish I would have done this different. That would be the one thing on a negative. Positive for us, I mean, I do get a lot of feedback that the quality is next level, and that's definitely what we're about. We're not the cheapest. I'll never claim it. I'm not going to be able to beat some internet companies that you check out and upload your logo and then you get a tent. I can't compete there. I don't want to. So our stuff is going to last with our lifetime warranties. We've paid attention to the details. We put the fire rated certificate sewn into the tent. So if you go to an indoor show and the fire inspector comes up and says, is this tent fire rated? Right there, so that's done already. We've done those little things that will help you make sure that the boxes are checked, so we do get that feedback that, hey, everything was how it needed to be, so and that's what we strive to do.
That and I think that kind of gets at the other thing that when I get asked this, and why did you guys go with strike, or what is something that when I Google something and I'm starting to be like, okay, well, what should I be asking, and those are some points that I think you kind of raised that's interesting about that. It's so much more than just what that display might look like. I know one of the things that I appreciated that I didn't think of is you did that consult of just, some recommendations of things that I wouldn't have realized until it's shown up. Like, you don't want to put your website at the bottom, right? And you're like, no,
Yeah.
it made sense on the picture of
Mhm.
that. And that feedback helps. And one of the things too was a suggestion on some things that were unique. and the a pop-up table that I haven't seen others have. And one of the things I find for a booth, it's like you're trying to find all these different ways to stand out in any way you can.
Yeah.
So I mean that is great. The ease of put together is another one. I don't know if you guys, it seems like you spend some time doing that, of just saying, here's how this clicks together, doing that, because usually I'm there by myself,
Hmm.
trying to figure out how can I do this before, the doors open. But that would be my question to you, is those, what you mentioned that, the durability, what are some things that say Strike is doing to make sure that someone says, yeah, this made a difference compared to just Googling that low cost one?
Yeah, I think there's three things that set us apart. Number one is a commitment to the industry, and I think that's important. That's why I'm talking to you now. That's why I sponsor the Brewers Association and CBC. That's why I'm in other groups that help put money and good energy into this industry. I feel like that should make a big difference. I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just saying we're committed to the industry that we're working in. It's not a I just want your money and move on. I show up as much as I can at these events, and I'll give out any recommendations like we're doing now, talking from an educational standpoint. Um, but I, but all the industries that we really try to go vertical in, we commit time, money, energy. I think that sets us apart from an internet company where they just want your order and that's all. There's no other value there. So I'd say that's my foundation. The other two are connected. It's just service and follow through. And so many people talk about their service. I'll show it and I'll back up. Our ratings back it up. Your testimony backs it up. We have plenty of others, but transparency is big for me. We talked about the timing. If somebody hits me up in their events in 7 days and they're like, I can't miss it, sometimes I'm just going to say, you know what, I'm going to pass because I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. I know that feeling. I've been there on the other side. I've taken the calls at Saturday at 7 o'clock. I don't want that stress anymore. So I I will turn down business if it's not a fit. If I know you could get the products that much more efficient somewhere else, I'll tell you where to go. Like I'm not going to try to make money when it doesn't make sense. The tents I can do amazing. These other products with the innovation, and I will say ease is a big thing for us. Time is more precious than money, period. So if we can save you time, save you frustration, to me that's invaluable. And I Strike and myself will strive to do that at every instance that we can. So
That that's great, man. I appreciate it. And like I said, that's the question. I think people sometimes feel overwhelmed. Like I know I need this. I just don't know where to get started. Right. Or I don't know what I should be asking. I hear that a lot too. It's like I don't know what I don't know. And I want to make sure. And they're not always thinking too, like, I want to have this be around 3 years from now, right? They're thinking of
yeah.
that first event. I don't think durability, comes up. It was interesting. I was at an event recently, and it was outdoors, and the weather conditions were not great. And you saw some that were clearly built to stay, and the people were, be able to do what they could do on it, and others that had already, torn through the elements, right? And
Mhm.
you don't know how many times they'd use it, but it was an interesting thing where there that matters, because they're still out there trying to serve beer in that environment. So I
Yeah.
appreciate it. I'm a big fan of the rule of three, of three things that you'd recommend. And so I have an example for you that I'm sure a lot of organizers are going through right now. They're planning for summer festivals.
Mhm.
They're either first time they're doing it, or they've done it before and it's time to move to something branded. And I would say to you, what are the three things that you would say to that brewery X that's going to be starting to do their investigation, that before they get started, or however they get started? You say, here's three things you should do to make that successful.
Yeah, number one's been the underlying theme. Start early. You can't get the time back, and it gives you time to make adjustments. Life happens to all of us, right? Like we don't all just, we're not robots that work. So if you started something 30 days and life happens and you're out for a week, you don't have 30 days anymore. If you start 60 days, then those things work out. So start earlier than you think. Start now. Right. Second thing would be details. Whether you need to ask me or hopefully my team helps bring them up. You mentioned tents out in Mother Nature. Mother Nature will win. Nobody makes things that are Mother Nature proof. It will win if it wants to. So make sure you have your weights, whether you buy them from me or you buy them from Home Depot. Another example of transparency, I don't always push me selling weights because dead weight is hard to ship. It's expensive. So go local and get the right weights that represent what you want. But you got to put 30, 40 pounds per leg on these tents because, it's a hazard if they fly away at these events too. So tents, weights, and lights. Light is massive, especially if you're going into nighttime. We sell a mountable light in the tent that's really, really cool that you have to plug in. But there are LED lights you can buy locally, but light welcomes people. So if you've got a row of dark tents, so this indoors and outdoors, this is true, and then you're lit up, you are going to get the attention and the traction. So things like the weights and the lights, it's always tough because I don't want to feel like I'm always trying to upsell somebody, but I feel like if I don't offer those, then I'm not doing my job as a consultant, so I'm always going to offer those things for the most part. And then, hey, you can get them locally if you want, but to me, you got to weigh it down and you got to have it lit up the best you can. Those make a difference. The third thing, bring a full strategy into your presence. So don't think of everything compartmentalized. Think of it as rolling up to your why, if you're the Simon Sinek fan, or to that brand messaging that you're really trying to get across. So as you're doing your graphics with me, I'm always asking people, be like, here's the logo. I'm like, what else do you want? You can print on every inch of our products. You have a tagline that we used. And so I'm like, hey, tagline, social tags, QR code, put a QR code on the products that drive to a landing page where you can track metrics from your success. So make sure a full strategy comes in, not just, hey, I'll get my tent, and like have a digital strategy. You can geo target that area if you got somebody that knows how to do that, to where your ads can back up on the presence that you just had at that show. Bring digital into your event strategy if you have a marketing team. If you're a one-man show, there's ways to do it, the best you can. I understand that, and then make sure that your messaging, everything rolls up into what you're trying to accomplish. It may not always be to sell goods. It may be for, lots of other things. So make sure you have secondary goals in addition to your main thing that you can, track and make sure you put together the event you wanted to.
Yeah. No, that is great, Matt. I appreciate it. That I think sums it up perfectly. That's what we're trying to do, is be that resource for those to say, you're the expert, right? 100 plus shows, and to say, these are the things that we would, to start thinking about, early. That I think is, right there, numbers 1 and 2 almost. But I think it's great. And I really think, though, when you talked about it doesn't feel like an upsell. It feels like I've been to enough. I've gotten the call. I think it's more about, you don't want to be at this thing. And I didn't think it was going to get dark. I didn't think about waiting these down. All I thought of is that I've got it, to your point, that like I got this event, I got that thing on order, and I'm set and I'm on to the other thing. So I think it helps think, like you were talking about, more holistically about that event area. So I appreciate it, Matt. This is great. We're going to put this out for our members to consume, and our beverage friends to consume, so that they can have better events going forward this year. So I want to thank you again for your time. Good to talk to you as always. And we will let people follow you from here. Oh, very nice. Very nice.
I mean, you got to end with that these days, right?
You set the bar high, my friend. Thanks again, Matt.